Welcome back to another episode of Business Journey Unlocked. Today, I'm joined by Lou Weiss, CEO of WFM Project and Construction. With over 45 years of construction related experience, Lou helps organizations navigate complex projects by representing the owner's interest from early planning through completion. He brings a unique blend of solving tough construction problems, protecting client investment, and keeping change orders to a minimum by planning projects the right way from start to finish. What really sets his business apart is their ability to stay fully autonomous that aligns with the owner's best interest rather than fees tied up to rising project costs. Lou, thank you so much for coming on today. I'll turn it over to you to discuss your business.
Well, thanks for having me, Kev. I've been doing this really 52 years already now. And the issue is that I started out in the field, um, then worked for my dad for 10 years, opened our own company, another company, electrical contracting company for 10 years. And in 1989, when the market went bad, we got screwed out of, excuse the expression, $4 million. We were making money, couldn't collect it. So I went out and worked for a couple of companies, and then I had a owner's rep that I was working with to finish off a project, and I was really amazed by that part of the business, considering that the owners normally do not know or understand construction, and the contractors and architects and engineers on the other side, there was nothing to make it a cohesive group, a team. So I basically now fill that void that I am the owner, representing the owner who doesn't understand construction. And like you said, what we try and do is to make sure that everybody is treated fairly. Owner, as well as the contractors, as well as the architects and so forth. We always do have certain problems. There's no industry or business that doesn't have problems. The idea is they call me the solver. That's and lately, believe it or not, I've been called, basically, I feel I'm the guy behind the elephant because I've been called in after the fact when the client gets himself in trouble. And then I've got to try and step in and correct issues. The construction industry is fantastic. Like I said, I'm doing this over 52 years. And I just enjoy this part of it so much. I guess I can tell you I'm going to be 79 in January, and I still put in 7 days. I work at it, either paperwork or going to the job sites and so forth. The construction industry is 16% of the national gross product. Okay, 16%. And it's an expensive business now. Where we just lost was about 35, about $50 million worth of contracts in the last 2 weeks went south because of dollars. The construction industry gotten so expensive. Materials, getting materials, as well as even the cost to build. People are saying, well, the interest rate, has nothing to do with the interest rate right now, as far as I'm concerned. It has to do basically with the situation of that it just costs a lot of money. The tariffs, the getting the materials, even if you can buy it, does it ever get here? Schedules, time is money for the owner, as well as a contractor. The contractor makes his money getting in and out. That's when we talked about change orders. I hated change orders when I was a contractor because it always at the end, somehow or other, you ended up arguing about it and trying to settle. My change orders were always on point. I could always prove out my changes, so nobody could ever go ahead and challenge them. Okay? But even that, you have a problem sometimes it gets challenged. That's one of the things I do now, is I make sure when there is a change order, I review it before it even goes to the owner, and the contractor reviews it. If it's legitimate, then it's deserved, and they get paid. That's the key now. Don't forget, like I told you, I got really screwed out of $4 million back in '89. So I understand as a contractor, cash is very important. Clients, I insist, pay their 30 days in reference to paid contractors. How many contractors will go along and not get paid for 90 days, 120 days? Contractors are not partners to the person who they're working for. If they were a partner, it'd be different to hold up their money, but the money is key. Let's face it, even the supply houses now they won't let anybody go past 30 days. So you can take a contractor who's got 100 men, working. You know how much money that is, and especially if it's a union contractor, you can imagine how much money he's paying a week, in salaries. That goes out automatically. Go 30 days. You get 100 guys, and let's say they're 4,000, between 3 and 4,000 a week, each guy. So you got a $300,000 a week payroll, and take that out in 90 days, 4 weeks. Now you got $1,000,000 too. Okay, and that's if they pay you in 30 days, because you got to work 30 days before you get paid, even put the bill in. So now you're 60 days into the hole. Okay, and contractors don't understand. Some contractors are very poor businessmen. I
Mhm.
can tell you that right now. I'm dealing with a few of them right now who don't understand that. But it's a great business, though. Let me put it this way. It sounds like sometimes you're all a little negative, but you got to take the good and the bad when you're in this business. And one thing, and somebody always asks me, how come you're so up on construction? I said, well, keep it this way. The contractor always thinks he's going to bid it. He's going to win the bid. He's going to get the hours and the material cost on time. It'll be done on time. He's going to get paid on time, and everything's going to be no problem, including the inspectors and everything else. So we're optimists. You take something from nothing and you're building something.
Right.
Okay. Now, I said if I'm a demolition contractor, I'd be a pessimist probably, because all you do is tear down, you know? But the thing is that the construction industry as a whole is very good. Right now, though, I have contractors, I have architects, engineers calling me, hey, you got anything cooking? Now, architects are the canary in the mine. If they're not drawing, there's no building. That worries me right now. That worries me to that point where our business and a lot of the contractors do not have a lot of depth financially. A lot of them don't have that, and I'm hoping we'll be wrong, but I'm hoping that it's not going to happen. But as it gets worse, we could see people going under. So what I do is, when I tell people in contracting, best thing for you to do, keep close eye on your costs, keep close eye on your payments, and make sure you're doing what's right. Some of the contractors just feel that they can just go ahead and charge anything they want, and that's a problem, because if someone like me is around, we're going to see it. And all they got to do is try that a few times, and then we start looking, sleeping with one eye open with that contractor. And it's not right. I take the contractor's side many times, with the owner actually being mad at me because he sounds like I'm defending the contractors. But if the contractor's right, I will always defend it. Okay, and some owners don't understand that. You're supposed to work for me, and you're supposed to do what I tell you to do. And it goes back to my first line. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, not what I think you want to hear.
Mhm.
And most times I'm doing this 20 years now, and I must have done a couple of $100 million worth of work in that time, and still going. And I don't advertise. People just call me. They hear about my reputation, I guess, and I can do it. And reputation's a very big deal in our industry.
Mhm.
If you remember construction, you usually talk to someone who's done construction. You say, "Oh, my headache. Oh, I got construction's always gotten a bad rap in reference to that, because a certain few, you're going to have that 5% who are real thieves, maybe. And then you have another 5% who just don't know what they're doing. But it's fun. It really is. I asked somebody, I had breakfast this morning meeting this morning, and somebody asked me, he says, so why are you still doing it? I said, I'm doing it because I enjoy it. I enjoy seeing the fruits of the labor. Construction wise, that's what it's about. You're building something. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I just left. That's why we got on now. I have a client, Hope. It's called the Christian Children's Retreat. And it's Hope now. And we build 3,900 square foot single home residential for five disabled people. It's a full-time 24/7, but it's a home.
Huh.
And I was just at this was about the sixth one I've done for them. And to see these people who are in wheelchairs, and people who have some psychological issues and so forth, that they have a place that they can call home. It just gives you a warm feeling. So when you're a contractor, you can get that kind of feeling. It's worth every minute. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, I get paid, but it's still worth seeing what you've finalized. Construction is exactly what the word is, construction.
I really applaud the fact that, you do enjoy your work. A lot of people at your age, they already retired. Most moved to Florida, a lot of R&R, rest and relaxation, but you're still working, you said 7 days a week. I don't know anyone at your age who's still doing that, but the only reason why is because you really enjoy what you do.
Correct.
And again, I really respect that. I really applaud that. Going on my generation for comparison, they don't have that work ethic.
Right.
A lot of people just want to sit at home. They don't want to work. And construction is a whole different ballpark than white collar jobs.
Right.
There's a lot that goes into it, not only physically but mentally.
Well, there's no hours.
There's
Okay. I mean, last night I got a call from that attorney on one of the projects, and 8 o'clock at night. He's calling me. He needs some information. So construction, and I can't tell you how many times I call in the middle of the night. Hey, I got a problem. Okay. So yeah, it's an industry that if you do it correctly, you should enjoy it,
Mhm,
and you also should, get the fruits of your labor. Now, one of the things I told somebody again this morning that I don't have to, like I say, go out and find work. It finds me. But
mhm,
what we are is basically, if you're a businessman, you got to look at this certain way. You are a farmer. And then people say, what do you mean I'm a farmer? And I said, well, you got to find a piece of property. Well, that's a project. You got to go ahead and till the soil. Well, that means work it. Then you got to go ahead and plant the seeds. Okay. And then you got to water it.
mhm,
Okay. And then maybe you can eat the fruit from your labor. And that's the same thing with construction as far as bidding and getting the work and what you do with it. So we are farmers and in that respect. So, construction is that way. I mean, we look at it in a different manner sometimes. The thing is, too, now I spoke to somebody the other day. We talked about the union before, and uh, the electrical unions are busy right now. All of them are basically busy because, though, they're working on data centers or the utilities.
mhm.
Okay, but the regular general construction, I had a couple of contractors call me. They've laid off people because regular general construction is slowing up. Now, how do we change that? Good question. I mean, the question would be answered by making sure you go for the right contracts. You go. Oh, that's the other thing. Contract. I remember I sat into one of the associations. I sat in a meeting that they called together with an attorney speaking on contracts for contractors. Okay, there were 45 of us in the room. Guess what they asked? First question he asked is, how many of you read your contracts you get on your jobs? 4 of us raised our hand. Okay. He said, now I know why there's a problem. And that's it. Contractors don't read the contracts. And all of a sudden, the contract's only good and put it in a drawer until there's a problem. Okay. But when that problem comes out, it could put you out of business if you hadn't read the contract. So, contracts, as far as contractors go, make sure you read your contract. That's so critical. Okay, because today's market, like we were saying, used to be when I first started, you could shake hands and make a deal. Okay, not anymore. Even with your friends, you don't go ahead without a contract. So that's another issue that sticks that you have to do. There's plus and minuses on everything we do. Okay, but the thing is, you want to at the end make sure you're on the plus column.
I really like the fact that you're on call. You're like an on-call doctor, essentially, 24/7. Because you're on call, you get so many calls on various projects. Are there certain projects that you jump into that are you're more keen on jumping into as opposed to others as an outside partner? Or do you just have a more whole dynamic?
Well, I'm going to tell you what, since 2008, if you remember what happened, well, I don't know if you remember back then,
Oh,
but the
I
thing is,
remember.
2008 was a disaster. And the only thing that kept me going, basically, and of course, you got to be prepared too as a contractor, not to go home with a check sometimes.
Mhm.
Okay. You got to pay your bills, you got to pay your rent, you got to pay your people, and you're the last one to take money. Okay. back then, it got to a point where I was working, but I was not getting paid.
Mhm.
Why? Because I needed to keep it going. The issue is there that, you know, it's not always it's not always a dream what we're doing. Okay? You are going to have ups and downs. You got to be able to live through those ups and downs. But the ups definitely are a lot better than the downs. So, it's important. It's important you understand that the industry does have cycles. I used to say, if you remember, you can go look at 1970, look at 80, look at 90, look at 2000 or 2008. It was almost like a 10-year, every 10 years, there was a up and a down, up
Mhm.
and a down. Naturally, you could see that too, probably, when you look at finances. In the construction industry, it was almost like a 10-year cycle. Then we got COVID and everything else went to. But most of my jobs from 2008 that kept me going was the nonprofits. The nonprofits were spending. They had the money still. And to that day, now I've done, let's see, I've done 6 or 7 of those homes, which are not, they're about $1 million a home. But the thing is that I've done temples and I've done churches and and believe it or not, hospitals. I've done a lot of nonprofits. And believe it or not, the nonprofits will keep you going because even in bad times, believe it or not, they're still spending. So I suggest that you try and get yourselves, if you're a contractor, try and get yourselves into some nonprofits and also, some government work. I stay away from the amount of paperwork that's involved, the
Mhm.
timeline. Um, it's just a lot of problems. Now there's some contractors who live by doing that because they have a tendency. You have to be almost. Well, I shouldn't say a crook, but you got to have a bit of because they're always overcharging. What
Mhm.
I see all the time, they're always overcharging when it becomes a government type situation. Okay, because they feel that they should be able to get paid better by having to wait, by all the paperwork, the extra people they got to put on, things like that. So yeah, but so I stay away from government work if I can. It's just not worth it in my mind. Um, and then there's the commercial. The commercial, Sharp Electronics. They moved from up in Mawa to Woodcliff Lake, I think it was, and I was involved in that. That was one of the best jobs I've had.
Mhm.
Okay, doing that, and it's a commercial job, and you're dealing with a different type of contractor too when you're dealing with that versus even uh, the multi residential. Okay, I did 128 units. You may know the name. I can mention it now. It's Hollister Construction, and Hollister Construction had a $300 million company and went bankrupt. And they were on one of the jobs I was on, and luckily we had a bond, and we were almost finished. So doesn't matter how big the contractor is. That $330 million worth of work may have been worth 400. Okay, and so doesn't you just got to be financially. You got to watch who you're dealing with. You got to watch out who you're working for, really. And as much as people say, well, it seems like you got to go through a lot more to figure out who you're working for. You don't take every job. You don't take every job.
You can't.
Okay, no, you can't. And if you do, there's something wrong. There's something wrong because you can't be the one always 100% right.
Mhm.
I think when we bid, we were lucky if we did 10%. Really?
You briefly touched on how people are coming to you. You're not pushing out any advertisements, nothing like that. It's because based on your reputation. So, on the earlier years of WFM, what was the biggest challenge you had to push through to be seen as a trusted contractor and not just another vendor?
Well, when I was a contractor, okay, the issue was again the word got out that we were I had architects. Let's say you do a project and the architect likes what you do. Okay, as far as building, let's say as a contractor, I'm an owner's rep now, but I mean as a contractor, we talk contractor right now. As a contractor, um, you always made sure the owner understood what you were doing and that he liked what you were doing and you were fair. When you have that and the architect, you get to a relationship with the architect, the engineers, okay? They will in the future say, "Hey," to a client, "Why don't you call Lou?" Or why don't you? So it's a matter. And then what you do too is I have many architects, and like now, I will have people. My client says, "Can you give me a couple of architects to talk about?" So I can now lead them to architects or engineers, okay, which of course helps me in the end too, not financially. It does financially because I'm part of the job, but my client now has worth with me being there. I've brought in somebody who's worthy. Now, keep in mind, we got to be careful. It's like networking, okay? People will come around and they say, "Here, give me my card." Listen, if you have a client, well, I don't know you from a hole in the wall. I'm going to go ahead and give your card to somebody and say they're good. No, you got to learn to deal, whoever you're dealing with, you can trust. That goes for the architects, the engineers, even the owners. Okay, you want to walk away from a project with a plus on your back, and that way, you can always use them as a reference. You can always, again, the architect. Everybody's happy when they walk away from my job. Let me put it that way. Okay, when I was a contractor, we were happy at the end. Hey, I had some where I had to go nose to nose with the architect. Architect says, "Okay, do this, okay, do that." We get change orders, everything else. And then at the end, like I said, I hated change orders. The architect says, "Well, it really wasn't a change order." Wait a minute, you approved it. And then I got to go through the whole routine. And what happens normally, you'll end up getting into a fight with the architect, and that leaves bad blood. And, so what I say, like always, just be true to yourself as far as what you're going to do. If you're honest, and that's one thing, like I said, contractors don't have a reputation of being honest. Okay. That's what the outside world thinks. Okay. And basically, it's the people who go ahead and build homes, have contractors come in and do their house or something like that. And of course, most times that ends up being a disaster. The client doesn't know what they want. But move that door here, move that over here, do that over there. And they think it doesn't cost you a dime to do that. You give them a change order and they say, "Oh, now you're ripping me off."
Mhm.
Well, don't change anything. That's one of the things I sit with architects up front. DD, the design development drawings. That means you're working on design development and it's not going to cost anything to make any changes. Go to CDs, the construction drawings. Okay, now you're set. The architect wants to get paid if you make a change, and so does the contractor. Okay, try and make sure that the owner understands what he's buying up front and that he agrees to it. Okay, that's it.
Yeah, I think that really sets you apart from all the other construction because you got to remember this. You got to think how it would be if you were in their shoes. Some
Right.
people don't understand that if you got to change the whole plan, like just even a little part, it changes everything,
Yeah. Cause and
not just
effect.
that one part.
Cause and effect. I use that all the time.
Cause and effect. I like that.
Cause and effect. Yeah.
You briefly touched on the different shifts, trends that are happening. You touched on the tariff aspect, right? So, how do you think, with those in mind, the trends, how does that, do you think that changes the way clients typically would rely on you?
Well, I'll tell you what I've done. Uh, Considering what's happened, especially after COVID too. Okay. Um, Increases for material all of a sudden come up 15%.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, the owner says, "I have a guaranteed maximum price." They said, "Yeah, but a couple of points it goes up. That's one thing. Most contractors will take a hit on a couple of points, but 15%, it doesn't happen." And they put in a change order. So what I'm doing now, I'm as an owner's rep, when we bid out a job, we tell them to use a contingency and put 10% in on it, depending on the size of the job and all, put a contingency in there, which will be the increases if there are any. And if not, that goes back to the owner at the end. It's not
Mhm.
you, but it's part of the bid. So the owner has a bit of a pad in reference to the number. That way the contractor doesn't get hit right away with, oh, you're stealing from me. Hey, here it is. We got a 15% or 10% contingency. They have to come and ask the owner, hey, can I use it? Because the doors, all of a sudden the doors can't get shipped from Canada. They got to come from California. Okay, and it's going to cost me an extra $20,000. Can I use a contingency? The owner says, yeah, it's already built into their budget and to their numbers. That's what came out of COVID, is that more work on the contingency side.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I have not had one owner balk at that. And some of them actually got back money because they wasn't used, and they get that back 100%.
I find that really smart because stuff happens,
Right?
right? If people don't have that budget allocated in the beginning, it's just going to only slow down the process and make it more time consuming.
Well,
So,
there's three types. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but you got design contingency
Mhm.
when the drawings are not complete. You throw in a percentage for design contingency to try and hopefully pick that up. You have the contingency for the contractor, and then you have the owner's contingency that they keep in their back pocket to go ahead and say, okay, I want to move that door here. I want that. That's completely outside of the realm of what was agreed to. And that comes out of the owner's contingency, not the contractor, but the owner. The stuff that we're talking about for the contractor's contingency is strictly made for any kind of, if you have a GMP, a guaranteed maximum price, and something comes up. All of a sudden the HVAC contractor goes bankrupt.
Mhm.
Okay, now it's going to cost me an extra $20,000 to get somebody else to finish. That comes from that contingency.
Mhm.
So it's already built in. You're not, uh, the contractor's not taking it in the shorts.
Mhm.
Okay, in that respect. And that's what we found out from, believe it or not, from COVID,
Mhm.
with all the issues.
That's
The
yeah.
tariffs now create that issue too.
Yeah, it's more of like a safety cushion
Yeah.
type of thing. 100%. So looking on like the operational side in your business, is there anything that is frustrating, time consuming that takes up a great deal of time in your business?
Paperwork.
Paperwork. Lots and lots of paperwork, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Look behind me.
I yeah, all those binders. Yeah, I see that all.
So the thing but I'm going to tell you right now, going through a couple of lawsuits, not on my side, but the owner's side,
Hmm.
um, you can't not have paperwork because it saved us many, many times. Even from the owner perspective. A lot of owners have amnesia. I never said that. Oh, I never did that. And I am sometimes the owner's worst nightmare when it comes to, hey, you did say that at the meeting, because I keep minutes. I write my own minutes from every meeting that we have, be it with the contractors, be it with the owner. So paperwork. I bill as an owner's rep. I bill per hour, by the hour. I'm like an attorney. Every email, every text, every phone call, site visits, everything. I had one bill the other day. I sent 23 pages long on one project. Okay, yeah, that's time consuming. But guess what? That's money. And contractors don't know how to bill sometimes. Go back to the contracting side. Oh, I'm going to put in for X amount of dollars. Well, two things happen. One, either they underbill or they front load too much. And guys like me will pick up the front loading and say, well, no, you can't this, you have to cut this back. All right. That's why I say when you're a contractor, try and be true and you'll never have a problem. Okay. It's when you're trying to pull something over. And a lot of the owners too are smart enough. Don't forget they're owners of businesses. So they didn't get there by being stupid,
Hmm.
but they may not know your business, but they also can see numbers. And, like one guy just tried $400,000 mobilization on a $4 million job,
Hmm.
but he said mobilization and deposits. No, 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 no. If you give me a bill for the deposits, who are you paying for that? Mobilization, I understand. You got guys going in the field, you got everything you do, but you're giving out a deposit. I need to see where that's going. Well, we do that as a norm. Well, sorry, not here. Okay, you got to put it on your line item. If it's for gear, okay, put down 10% on gear, but don't put it all under one. It's contractors have to learn how to do paperwork. They've got to learn the AIA forms, the requisitions, very important. Okay, almost everybody's using them now, and especially if there's a bank involved. Bank requisitions, you put in for funding every month. I have bank inspectors come out once a month to visit these jobs. And they look at it and they say, "Hey, how come he's asking for so much?" That doesn't look good for me if I approve something that's a lot higher than what somebody else is questioning.
Right, right. I mean,
So,
numbers just don't lie, right? They don't lie at the end of
no,
the day.
facts. Keep to the facts.
Keep to the facts.
I'll tell you, every lawsuit that I was involved in, like I said, thank God I have not been sued in all my years. The thing is, all the suits that I were involved in, because we had the facts, we
Right,
were right. I
right,
used to tell my guys when they're out in the field, I said, don't you dare get me into a situation where we're wrong. And if we're
right.
wrong, tell me. We'll take it as it is if we're wrong.
And that's what
Okay,
you
we'll
should do.
straighten it. Yeah,
That's how you should do. So when you first started this company,
yeah.
and even when you started in general, there's been so much development in terms of how people do the work now. A lot of different technical aspects have been evolving, especially in the last 10 years, right? So looking at the different, you can say, evolutions of how not only construction as a whole, but correlating to your business as well. What's next? What's the next kind of leap that you foresee in the next, I'd say, 5 to 10 years?
You've got robots building buildings, pouring concrete, basically, too. I mean, the technology is moving ahead to that point. AI. I got to tell you a quick story about AI. AI is something new. The other day, I said, I have a RFP I have to send out. And I remember I talk about paperwork. Well, we got to do an RFP out for civil engineering. I said, let me try this. I hit AI. Okay, civil engineering for X location, bingo. Not but 2 minutes later, 6 pages long comes out. The only thing I had to change was said civil contractor. I put civil engineering instead. And
Hmm.
I had an RFP. Okay. And I sent it out to the engineers. That's what's happening in our industry. Okay. I had bids. I had 8 bids on a job. I had somebody helping me out here, and he went ahead and put in AI the bids, and it said, "Give me what you think on on these bids." 5 minutes, I had every bid analyzed, even to one point where one of them says, "Watch out! Financially, these people cannot handle the job." I mean, now we all know AI. You can't take everything they tell you verbatim for truth. You got to use it as a basis of looking, and you have to change things. You got to verify and so forth. But AI is something that's going to work in the construction industry. It's going to be a tremendous situation, but it's also going to take away some jobs. Okay, and I think more of the jobs that are going to be lost is going to be more office than it's going to be in the field.
Hmm. Oh yeah,
Um,
100%.
so, yeah, and I think that in the field, like I said, you've got robots that could do the work, some of the work. Okay, I still don't think that where a lot of the stuff went overseas. You're not taking a plumber, you're not taking an electrician, you're not taking a carpenter. They're not going overseas. I mean, the work to get done overseas, it's got to be done here. So the trades are so important right now. I sit on the workforce investment board, and we keep on talking about that. And now the feds have a program for apprenticeship, paid apprenticeship program. But other than the unions, a regular company can have a paid apprenticeship. And it's so important that we have trade people. Hey, some of the guys who work for me were taking home more money a year than I was. Okay, with overtime and everything else, they unionized. I was a union contractor for 30 years. So, I mean, uh, and I don't begrudge them because that was, and I charge for that. Okay. The problem is, 47% of the workforce after World War II was unionized. Right now, it's 11%, and 70% of that is the government. So, where New York City was a lot of unionized, it's down to less than 50% as far as construction. So you got to make your bed too. Which way you're going to go? If you're going to go union or you're going to go non-union, okay? You got to figure out that, you know, how do I handle that kind of situation? Because we had this issue where they used to put up the rats. Okay, when there was a union contractor and there wasn't a union contractor on a job, they get the big blow up rat and put it out in front of the building. Okay, so somebody said to one of my owners, said, "Well, I'll just get a bigger cat and blow it up." Okay, so eh, working through construction, it depends on what you want to build. Like you said earlier, what's your and I did 12 hospitals in New York City. Okay, by myself as a owner's rep. Okay, and on time, within budget, all unionized guys, contractors. Okay, but it's also a matter of who you take on. I will not recommend a contractor to an owner who I have no personal knowledge of, or I've vetted them out to that point. Okay, to the point where I feel comfortable. I don't just have a small group. I get guys call me all the time, hey, I've been working 30 years at doing this and, it got a little slow. You think you have something, and I start looking into it, and they happen to be a good contractor. Like I said, the one job we just had, 8 bidders. I don't like to put a lot of bidders on them, but the client said, hey, I want to get it, and the people are calling me. So, okay, so we'll put the 8 bidders on. Then we narrow it down to 3, and then we narrow it down to 1. Again, you'd be surprised. My leveling sheet, I do leveling sheet. Leveling sheet is where the contractors break down their bid, and then I take a master leveling sheet. And each contractor, I put them on that, and I can go along. Let's say electrical. One guy's $1.2 million, another guy is $900,000, one guy is $600,000. Well, you start asking questions about the $600,000. Okay, that's why I usually have at least 3, if not more. I used to tell my estimators, okay, one thing, estimators are very important too, is that don't give me a price that we can't live with. Either too high, if you're afraid, or too low because you want to get the job. Give me a number and let me as the businessman make my decision for what I want to do. If I want to cut the estimate a little bit, I feel like, okay, maybe I can give a point or two here, or maybe I think I can buy better. Give that to me. You give me what actual I need. And that's why we did well. When I ran Kleinick Electric, last year I was there was $45 million worth of electrical construction. Okay. The reason for that, the reason for that is because people in the industry knew, that we would give them a good number, and we did the job. Keep in mind, you can't just get a job. You got to build it too.
Exactly.
And I can't tell you how many contractors. I just had one where the contractor walked off the job. Now, I was the owner's rep. The general contractor is electrical, believe it or not, walked off the job. Now, we got a problem. Now, I don't have the problem. Contractor has the problem. But I help them. I say, let's call these guys, let's call that guy. Maybe we can get something, you got to finish the job. So those are the things on the negative side that happen. You end up with a contractor who goes belly up. Okay. The big issue was I had one contractor, general contractor. He put in for his HVAC contractor for $80,000 for equipment on a requisition. And so, where is it? He said, oh, he's got it in his warehouse. Okay. Show it to me. Give me pictures. Show me he has it. They sent some pictures. Came time to get this stuff. Couldn't find the contractor. Who knew what the pictures were? Okay. Probably from some other warehouse someplace else. He was gone. We got a waiver of lien from each contractor. So we said, hey, waiver of lien says we paid him. I'm not paying twice for another contractor to come in. That $80,000, the general contractor had to go ahead and negotiate with somebody else to come in and do the work. The owner wasn't going to pay for it. Why should the owner pay twice?
No, I agree. I
So
agree.
that's what I'm saying is contracting is a it's a, believe it or not, it's a science. And if you look at it really, and construction industry, it's over 1,000 years old. I mean, all the pyramids and so forth. I mean, so and it hasn't changed much since then, except maybe some tools. I remember when I was a contractor, we fought about scaffolds. The union was said, no, you're going to have a pipe scaffold. You're going to have a guy up on top. You have a guy on the bottom. Then we finally said we fought it in negotiations, and we got electric scaffolds. One man up on top. Okay, we paid extra money for electric scaffold, but it moved around a lot easier. You got a lot more done. Okay, those are that's how the industry has changed. Okay, they used to have a drill and anchors. Okay, you'd have to use a drill and anchor. No one wanted to use the power actuated tools. They say, oh, it's going to kill somebody. Well, you go anywhere now, well, power actuated tools. Okay? So technology does step into construction and time. I calculated out as a contractor. I calculated out one day. Okay, um, it cost. Let's see, what did it cost? It cost a buck and a quarter. This goes back 10 years ago. Buck and a quarter a minute. My cost for a man. Buck and a quarter a minute. My cost.
Mhm.
Who goes ahead and figures time by minutes? Most contractors don't. It's when a job goes over, that's when they find out that you got a problem.
Mhm.
So you got to keep an eye on that. As a contractor, you have to keep an eye on your cost, like I said.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Going back on the technical aspect, right?
Yeah,
I do agree with AI, how it's evolving. Some jobs will be left behind, but others will be created, right? That's just the way it's going to work. That's natural. And it's more so in the white collar, as you mentioned, with the office jobs and everything. Because sure, yeah, AI, robotic equipment can help with the blue collar jobs. They will help to a certain degree, but they can't eliminate the actual person behind it.
correct. But they have to be trained people.
Exactly. They have to be trained.
That's the key. That's why I was a union contractor, believe it or not, for 30 years, is because I knew anybody who was coming out from that hall was trained.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay. They all were trained. They all passed a 4 or 5 year apprenticeship. They all had to know algebra and how to read a ruler and had to, they're trained.
Mhm.
Okay. And that's what has to make sure we have is trained people. No
Mhm.
sense putting a guy out who doesn't know how to, read a ruler or a level. And what are you going to get when that's done?
Mhm. Mhm.
Bubble.
I agree. I agree. You've had a long career, not only in construction, but as a business owner, community leadership. If you could just leave one message to anyone listening or watching this, what advice would you leave to them?
Well, I guess the advice would be a businessman. Okay. Be a businessman first because you can be a contractor, but you got to be a businessman. Okay, you got to know all your costs. You got to know what the price is. You got to know who you're dealing with. You've got to know your people. Always hire people that you feel comfortable with and are knowledgeable. Okay,
Mhm.
um, if you don't do that, then there's no reason to do it
Yeah,
because it's the bottom line.
exactly. It's the
That's
bottom line.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So yeah, it's a great business. You just got to be careful, more careful now than ever before. Let me put it that way. Like I said, I like to be on a positive note, but also on a practical note. You
Mhm.
just got to be careful.
So, setting the construction world aside and just focusing on you, Lou, as a person, what's one habit or belief practice that you do daily that sets you up for success that you think most people should do as well?
Well, my background, believe it or not, I was in the television industry for 8 years and television stations. But then I went back into the construction, worked in the field, like I said, and then became an estimator and then became a project manager and so forth. It's the steps.
Mhm.
Okay. There are leaders And then there's people who are followers. I mean, the regular person who works. Okay. He's not the business owner, but he worked for a business owner. Okay. My feeling is if you're going to be a business owner, okay, you treat your people right.
Mhm.
If you treat your people right, they're going to treat you right. You'll have 5%, okay, but you treat your people right. That's one thing I've always looked at. And same thing with the contractors. I treat the contractors right. They're supposed to treat me right.
Mhm.
Okay. So be right. Be true. Be honest. Okay. Don't let the people continuously say construction is made up of crooks. Okay. It's not. It's people who are building certain things. You look at the towers that went back up again. I mean, there's so many great buildings, not just around here. I'm doing one now. I'm going to get ready, 65 units, apartment building, for an owner. Okay. We put out the bids came in and they were very close. I believe it or not, on a $13 million job, maybe there were a couple 100,000 between three different contractors.
Mhm.
Okay. But we also look into vetting them out and how did they, and then the owner has an interview and how's the owner feel working with these people? It's not just, it's also about personalities.
Mhm.
You can't just have a guy walk in. Like I had one guy walk in on a bid and he walks in and it was a fire job. He walks in sneakers, shorts, okay, on a pre-bid, okay, and his shirt open down to his belly button, and I mean, the guy just, you know, how would anybody feel dealing with someone in the construction industry walking in, especially with shorts and sneakers, okay, and not on a blank piece of property inside a building that just had a fire, so uh, you got to know who you're working for and with. And personally, I think well, I think also, by the way, if you're going to be a businessman, you also get involved in the community. I was in Rotary. I was president of Rotary. I was past chairman of Commerce and Industry, CIANJ. I am now chairman for the foundation for the hospital over in Paramus. You know, uh, and people say, why do you belong to this? I say, well, first of all, I don't have a hobby. So giving is my hobby.
Mhm.
Okay. That's it. Number one. Number two, you know how many people you meet and how many people say, hey, I got a project coming or I know somebody. That's how you end up getting your work because you're out there. So many guys say, oh, I'm just going to work till 5 o'clock, go home, and that's it. Well, I can't tell you how many nights a week I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah. The way I like my motto for the world is it's not how the world treats you, it's how you treat the world,
Oh, yeah.
right? You got to be true to yourself,
Yep.
true in your belief, and it just transitions into everything in life.
In my high school yearbook, I said, don't do unto others as you want them to do unto you.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's a
And
great
that was
motto.
in my high school yearbook. Okay. And I live by that. I live by that. I mean, really, I don't ever. I have one project now, like I said, I think the owner's wrong in certain way. I think the contractor's wrong. We're trying to come to an agreement in between because no one was right on this particular situation that we're talking about. But,
Mhm.
okay, both sides have to come together.
Okay.
And that's what I do. Again, like going back to the beginning. And one guy, a good friend of mine, called me the connector. I say another guy who's a past mayor. I had breakfast with him this morning too. Every time he introduces me, here's a guy who's got over 10,000 names in his Rolodex. He still calls it Rolodex. But the thing is, you know, that's what the worth is of me to my client.
Mhm.
I can pick up the phone to the head guy at utility. I got a problem. Solve it for me? Sure. Why? Because I helped them. So it's a matter of, there's a lot of give and take in this business, especially.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
And
that's
that's life.
cool.
That's
Yeah.
life. Yeah. You got
Mhm.
the right idea, which you said. So,
Yeah, no, that's very powerful. I mean, I really do appreciate you sharing the time. I feel like a lot of people are really gonna take in and grasp your perspective and experience, and I hope that they can put that into their own life. Because a man pushing on 80, working 7 days a week, being true to theirself, being true to the belief that you put even in your high school yearbook,
no,
that really means a lot to people
you
nowadays,
got to,
especially especially with everything going on.
Well, you got to live by what you feel. I mean, let's face it, you said it very nicely. I said, you just got to be true to yourself. Really.
Exactly.
Right now over my desk, other thing is accountability. There's a
Accountability.
sign right over my door. It says accountability.
I like
Okay.
that.
Don't be blaming everybody else for anything that you've done.
Hmm. Yeah.
Accountability. And that's what it's about. Yeah. So, anytime you need me, just pick up a phone call or send me a note.
For anyone who's watching or listening to this, now I know you said you get most of the referrals from people coming in, but is there a website or any platforms that they can reach you at?
Yeah. They can reach me at my email. I mean, email address or my website. Yeah, on
Mm.
my email address, basically. That's it. I haven't I haven't redone my website in years. I mean, I got so many projects that I could be putting on there. Time,
Mm.
like I said, you spend a lot of time doing what you're doing to keep going. Sometimes you have to stop and matter of fact, I'm talking to someone now about maybe redoing updating the website. But I have no problem with anybody. If you want, I can give right now. It's L Weiss LWEISS at WFM project.com. Don't forget the dash.
You can't forget the dash.
So, but if they want, be more than happy, and I'll answer any questions they have. Like I said, I'm far from being the smartest person in the world, but I've gotten my lumps.
Mm.
When you get lumps, it gives you a little bit of something to say, and also you can see I got gray hair.
Thank you so much, Lou, for your time, and thank you everybody who's listening and watching this.
Hey, thanks, Kev. Good
My
luck.
my pleasure.